Greetings, everybody, from Grace Ministry at Rafa. We're also known as Trinitarian Grace International. And obviously, we took on that title because of our friends and our influence in other countries and all over the United States. Uh, we've had Bernard join us since we got on. He's from Kenya. Good to see him. Our friend Paul in Nigeria. Good to see everybody that's over there and over here. Isn't it amazing that we're sitting here in this little chapel in Tala, Alabama, or at least close to Tala, and we got these people joining with us from all over the world that choose to participate with us right here, and they do have other choices. It's in the evening time there, of course. Today, uh, yeah, Daniel, we're not using the camera today. Uh, but anyway, today I want to talk about something. All of you, everybody in here except for about three of us, my wife and Dale, are in rehab. Isn't that something? Either here or at the fellowship house. And I don't know where you were before you came or none of that, but it don't really make any difference. We're all, as the LMA program says, we're all recovering from something. Just so happened I've had the same issues y'all had. Uh, I guess there's others online and others here that haven't had the same issues that we've had, but they've had their issues and they still have their issues. Something came to my mind. Uh, I don't know why I got to thinking about this topic, but the word reflections came to mind. You know how you sit around and reflect? Sometimes maybe if you're over here, you sit out here by the pond if it's not freezing, and you just kind of start reflecting. At Fellowship House, you got places where you go sit. And sometimes it's at 2 o'clock in the morning if that's when you're normally asleep, some of you, and you wake up and you have those moments when you're just laying there, you're not sleeping, and I don't have my camera on. That's what he told me. But anyway, you're thinking about home. Are you thinking about your wife? Are you thinking about your girlfriend? Are you thinking about your children? Y'all tracking with me here? And you get to laying there and you just get to thinking and get to reflecting. We won't go too deep because this is a family program, but you get to laying there thinking and wondering and carrying on and all that. Do you ever think about times that God has intervened in your life? Are you aware of those times? I went for many years going through a lot of stuff in my life, and God was intervening all along that I really wasn't aware of it. As time passed and things happened and a lot of stuff unfolded, I started looking back and I'm like, that was obviously God intervening in my life, even when I didn't know it. Like my mother, who passed away, going on 2 years now, year and a half, 97 years old. Y'all heard me talk to her a lot because she was a lot in my life. She said, always told me, God has a plan for you. And I was like, nah. I mean, I just tell her that right out, but I'm like, nah. And she said, you're going to be a pastor and all this stuff. Y'all heard the story. Some of you have. And I'm like, yeah, well, I became a counselor and I've run rehabs for years and years and years. But preacher, nah. Well, it happened. I mean, I'm not Billy Graham, but I'm Rannie Childress. And that's what we have to learn to be, is be who you are, who God has meant for you to be, not try to be something that you're not. But I reflected, and this week, and most of you know, and I don't wear this as a badge of honor, that's for sure, but most of you know that I was incarcerated a time or two for long periods in my life, and God worked a lot of things out in my life where I've ended up sitting here today. But I was thinking, I was sitting and reflecting, and I got to thinking about my journey and how that came about. And I remembered a little story I wrote years ago, and I'm going to read it here in a little while if y'all bear with me on it. But But after I show a few scriptures here, if I can get my thing working here like I'm supposed to. Okay. Is that showing up? It's getting there, right? Let's hope so. There we go. Bear with me here. There you go. How about that?
Wake home.
There it is. We see that? Yeah. That's not y'all sitting there, by the way. Grace Ministry, days February 23rd. Just so you know, before we get started too deep in this, I want you to always associate these sayings with this ministry. God's not mad at you. He's not ticked off at you because we did all this stuff. All are included. You're not excluded because you did this or you did that, or you're not doing enough. And the gospel is what? The gospel is Jesus. So the gospel is for all kinds of people in all kinds of places, even in Rafa and Fellowship House. You hear what I'm saying? Some people say you got to come down to the corner church if you want to find God. God's not lost, so you ain't got to find him. He's not lost. He's not off wandering around. Wherever you go, God is there, whether you realize it or not. See if I can read my scriptures here. We're about getting too off. 1 Corinthians 13:12 from the New Life Translation. And this is how we get to reflecting on our life. And sometimes this is how we see it. And I like this translation pretty good for this one. It says, now we see things imperfectly, like puzzling reflections in a mirror. But then we will see everything in perfect clarity. All that I know is partial and incomplete, but then I will know everything completely, just as God now knows me completely. God knows us completely, but we don't quite know God completely. We know there's a lot of us that know a lot about God. You've heard grandma and mama and all these people tell you about God, right? You know about God, but do you know God? He knows you. He knows you and me intimately. But when that time comes, whenever that happens, when we're finally completely without anything face to face with God, it won't be any more of this reflections, and it won't be partial, and it won't be incomplete. We'll finally realize. And that's the way we look at our life sometimes. Like I said, how God has intervened in our life, and we don't see it clearly. We kind of, well, so and so helped me. Like somebody intervenes in your life, another person intervenes in your life and helps you. It's happened for me. Has it happened for you? And we'll give them all the credit. Well, it's fine to tell somebody thank you for helping me or whatever. But who you think inspired them to help you? Everything has God involved in it. Think about that. Everything we do, everything we see. So as we reflect on our life, let's think about how was God involved in that? I don't know how that's showing up there, but I've had to move stuff around up here where I can see it. Psalm 48:9 says, oh God, we meditate on your unfailing love as we worship in your temple. Now, let's talk about that. Most people, when you say we worship in your temple, the first thing comes to mind is the church building, right? This is the temple. The Baptist church on the corner is the temple. The Jewish synagogue is the temple. That's what we think about, right? You know what the temple is? The temple is you. We are the temple. We sit in buildings of wood, concrete, metal, all this to keep the weather off. I know churches with our friends over in Africa, some of them have church under trees and stuff because they don't have a building. We're the temple of God. These are buildings that we get together and worship and commune with. So think about that. Meditate on God's love. Where's this love come from? You ever notice that It says God is love. God, it's not just what he does, that's what he is. So meditate, reflect on this love and do it. Remember that about the temple, because it's coming from within here. This one here, I don't know if everybody's going to like this one, but this one is for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen. We don't see God. I don't see this big God like this old man standing there in front of me. But I see the results of God, don't you? You ever pray for something and all of a sudden, how many in here's had a miracle, at least one miracle happen in your life? Okay. Those of you that didn't raise your hand, it's either because you're embarrassed or you're just not aware of that miracle. Everybody in here's had a miracle, more than one, but at least one. And sometimes we have one that really stands out. But let's talk about how we as a whole, mankind, since the creation of the world, God's invisible attributes are clearly seen in the sky, in the trees, and all around us, in our families, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, Father, Son, Spirit, so that they are without excuse. Because although they knew God, mankind, they did not glorify him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools. You can get people now, you can get people that's got all kind of degrees. I mean, I got a bunch of degrees. That don't make me smart. That just made me know that's not what I needed to get a promotion at the time or whatever. There's nothing wrong with degrees. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with all that. But sometimes we profess to be wise. There's people in this world that profess to be wise, but they're very ignorant when it comes to the ways of God. I do this. I did that. We did. We can't even take our next breath without the presence of God. Acts 17:28. In him we live and move and have our being. Think about that. We're held together by the presence of God. So let's don't be fools. Be truly wise and know that God is involved in our lives. Reflect on what God has done for you. This led me to this story about, of course, I'm getting around to anybody. You don't have to raise your hand. Most of you in here been in jail before, right? I know there's people in here. My wife's never been in jail. I don't think Dale's ever been in jail, but most of the crowd here has been in jail before. And this is a story about jail. And it got me thinking, Paul and Silas got thrown in jail for what? Doing the right thing. I got thrown in jail for doing the wrong thing. How about you? I didn't get thrown in jail for doing the right thing. I got thrown in jail for doing the wrong thing. But these guys got put in jail for just talking about Jesus, right? But at midnight, they're in this jail and they're praying and singing hymns. They're singing. They think these dudes done made them some julep and got drunk. You know what I mean? They're like, what are they doing? Other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open and everyone's chains were loose. Now let's think about this literally, but also think about it symbolically. And the keeper of the prison awakened him from the sleep. Back in those days, if you were a guard at a prison or a jail, if one of your inmates got away, guess what they did to you? Killed you. It was a death sentence to let somebody escape. So you wonder why the guard was kind of shook up when he thought that some of them got away. From sleep and seeing the prison doors open, supposing the prisoners had fled, drew his sword and was about to kill himself. He's like, because you know what they probably crucified him like they did Jesus or some other horrible death. So he's going to kill himself, so I ain't going to let him do that to me. But Paul called with a loud voice, do yourself no harm, for we are all here. Then he called for a light, ran in, and found fell down trembling before Paul and Silas, and he brought them out and said, Sirs, what must I do to be saved? In other words, there's something going on here. What have I got to do to become a part of it? You know, we don't have to use the churchy word saved. That's fine. But what they're really saying is there's something powerful and mystical going on right here. I mean, we had an earthquake and y'all could have left, but you stayed. You get what he's saying? He's saying, how did I become a part of this? And I think it goes on to him and his whole family became believers, right? Well, this got me to thinking about my journey. You know, when I was incarcerated, I remember walking around in the early years being bitter, being angry. And who was I bitter and angry at? You. Anybody outside of me, anybody I could blame other than myself for being in that situation. I blamed my family life. I blamed my mother and father for not doing this or that. I blamed everybody except taking responsibility for myself or being accountable. So it got me to thinking back a few years ago, and I wrote a story. If those of you have heard this story before, I apologize ahead of time. Maybe some of the top folks has been around with me for years, but I wrote a story, or I wrote a story about somebody, and it's called The Jesus Talker Dude. So, y'all mind if I read it to you? Well, I'm going to anyway. So, anyway, it's called I want you to listen to the words of the story. It's going to take me a few minutes. And the title of it is The Jesus Talker Dude. I know a guy, I call him the Jesus Talker Dude. He talks about Jesus. It makes me feel good when he talks. I met him here in this place, this awful place, this prison that I call home. He is a smooth talker, this Jesus talker dude. He'd make a great salesman. We're walking the yard. It is very hot. It is dusty, and we both are sweating as we walk it. At times, we even jog a little. He's talking about the love of God and how Jesus died so that we might live. Sounds good, but I hardly call what we're doing living. He tells me that Jesus will set me free. I like the sound of that. Free. Yep, I like that. The Jesus talker dude seems content in this place. He doesn't get high or drink the homemade booze that is made here sometimes. They call it julep. He just goes around talking about Jesus. I reckon he reads his Bible and other religious type books, or at least that's what I think he does. He is a strange dude. Yep, the Jesus talker dude is kind of weird, but I like him anyway. I wonder about him, this Jesus talker dude. Why is he doing this, talking to me about Jesus? All I have known about Jesus is the stuff I heard when I was a kid. I heard people that talked about Jesus, and they didn't seem to behave much differently than the folks that were considered bad people. Nope, I didn't notice much difference. Jesus talker dude's telling me that this is not about emotions and feelings. It's not about measuring up and marching to the Christian tune. He said it's about a relationship and the indwelling spirit of God, which the Jesus talker dude says is living inside of me and him and everyone. That is some weird stuff. Jesus talker dude says that all are included in the love of God, that nobody is excluded. I like it when the Jesus talker dude explains this stuff to me. It makes me feel good, sort of warm on the inside. My guilt and shame seem to go away for a few minutes. Jesus talker dude is a pleasure to listen to. Jesus talker dude seems to always find me when I'm walking the yard. He just walks up beside me and starts talking. I wonder why he chooses me to talk to. Maybe I am obviously a bad sinner. Whatever the reason, I like the Jesus talker dude. The things he shares are so different from the religious stuff I'm accustomed to hearing from the volunteers that come to the chapel and the preachers that come on TV. Jesus talker dude and our walks around the yard have become a part of my routine. We love our routines here in this place. This prison I call home. Yep, it never fails when I begin walking the yard. Jesus talker dude shows up and begins talking, telling me that love is the main thing that overrides everything, all problems, all situations, and issues that tend to plague people. Jesus talker dude is talking about how I'm accepted. All I need to do is accept Jesus in return. That Jesus has already said yes to me. That all that I need to do is just say yes in return. That's not about what we do. It is all about what Jesus has already done and is doing in the present. That I am loved unconditionally. Yes, sir. This Jesus talker dude is cool. I like him a lot. Walking the yard, thinking about this Jesus thing, and here he comes walking up beside me. You guessed it, Jesus talker dude. He starts right in talking about inclusion and how no one is excluded from God's family, that no sin is bad enough to stop Jesus from accepting, loving, and blessing us. He tells me that I am God's favorite. I laughed, and he says that he's also God's favorite. This Jesus talker dude is one strange cat. Jesus talker dude is at it again, talking to me about Jesus and how I can talk to Jesus anytime I want to. He said, I am in Jesus and that Jesus is in me, and we're all in the Father, and the Holy Spirit is in there as well. Strange stuff. Jesus talker dude tells me that all I need to do is recognize my true identity. And he says that my identity is in Jesus. Jesus talker dude is all about Jesus. That's for sure. Jesus talker dude is walking and talking, tells me that the Greek word metanoia means to change your mind. Jesus talker dude said that this is all the religious sounding word repentance is, a change of mind. Jesus talker dude tells me to just change my mind. That's all there is to it. That once I recognize Jesus in me, that I will learn to be, and my action and deeds will flow from this state of being. Not your typical religious sounding spiel. Jesus talker dude has got me thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yes, I am thinking. Can I simply change my mind and that will be repentance? Worth a try. I am walking and hoping that the Jesus talker dude would show up and walk with me. I keep walking and am thinking about all the stuff that the Jesus talker dude has taught me. I have found myself telling others about the stuff Jesus talker dude has shared with me. Yard call is over, and I am headed back to my cell. First time in a long time that Jesus talker dude did not walk with me. I asked someone if they had seen the Jesus talker dude. You know, the guy that always walks with me. Everyone that I ask has the same response. I have never seen anyone walking with you. I get back to my cell. My mind's whirling. Have I lost my mind in this prison that I call home? I sit on my bunk. A piece of paper falls to the floor. It is neatly folded. I pick it up and unfold it. And there's a message on the paper. My precious child, I have enjoyed immensely our walks and talks. You are my favorite child, and I am especially fond of you. You have come a long ways. You have begun the real journey of seeing the truth of your being and moving toward matching that with the way of your being. I love you, my son. You have learned to be. You can walk with the assurance I am with you, in you, always. I am the Jesus talker dude. I'm walking the yard. A guy's walking with me. I am talking. He's listening. He says, you sure talk a lot about Jesus. I think I'll start calling you the Jesus talker dude. That's it. Anyway, I hope you get the point. That was a fictional but real to me. No, I didn't have a guy that walked and talked to me, but I was hearing those things, and I was hearing them from within. I was beginning to realize that God was with me and started teaching me from in here. Reading the Bible is wonderful. Reading scriptures is wonderful. Yes, that's there for us. The true teaching and learning we get comes from within. If you don't believe that Jesus Christ is in you, he is. Ask yourself, as Pastor Kruger told us to do. Do it now, do it later, do it in private, whatever. Jesus, are you in me? You know that he will reveal himself to you some kind of way. You haven't done anything bad enough or terrible enough that he's not going to respond to you. Psalm 145:5, I will meditate. Think about your life. I will meditate on your majestic, glorious splendor and your wonderful miracles. Reflect on your life. Look for the times that you know God has intervened. Look for the times when the Jesus talker dude has spoke to you. When from the time we're this little, you ever doing, I know more about you guys, but I've done a few things wrong in my life. Did you not get this feeling right here when you were doing wrong? I mean, there's something in here. You knew it was wrong when you was doing it. That's the presence of God saying, don't do that. Now, he don't control us. He don't slap it out of our hand. He don't grab us and throw us down, but he does communicate with us and we ignore it. And we try to, as we get further and further away in our minds, we never separate from God, but in our minds we do. And the further we get, some of you are like me. I found myself in a hole and I just kept digging. You ever done that? Just kept digging and the hole got deeper and the hole got deeper. And then I got down in there and I'm like, how in the hell did I get in this hole? You put me in this hole. The judge put me in this hole. Them daggum people with them lawyers and ex-wives and girls, all of them, they put me in this hole. No, they did not. You put yourself in the hole. I put myself in the hole. But the bad part about it is we'll get down that hole and we'll finally stop. And then people will perceive that there's people who are throwing dirt in on top of us, right? But we brought it on. But y'all know the story about how you do that, the donkey that got buried, how he got out of the hole? Well, they throw dirt on top of him. He'd shake and step up. He'd shake and step up. Eventually, the hole was filled because of all the dirt that got through on him. He shook and it fell off and it kept building up and he finally just stepped right out of the hole. That's what we got to do, friends. We think people were in the hole. I've finally come to the conclusion. I put myself in a hole, but now that I'm down here, I'm trying to stop digging. But hell, there's people dropping dirt on me, trying to bury me. Shake and step up. Shake and step up. Face it. You know what? Eventually, you'll step right out of that hole. And don't worry about what other people think, what they say about what you're trying to do. Back in my early days of when I became a counselor, when I was the inmate guy, they used to take me out to speak, and I was this, and there for a while I was kind of like the dog and pony show. Here's this guy did all these years in prison, and he's telling everybody about his story and all that, and I was kind of like the dog and pony show. To tell you how people are and how we allow ourselves to become. There was some people in my life that just loved me doing that. But then when I got enough dirt where I could step out of the hole, and then I started getting me some of them things hanging on the wall. You know what I'm saying? And when I got to where in their mind, I was looking them dead in the eye and I wasn't looking up from the hole anymore. You know what some of them wanted me to do? Get your rear end back in that hole. I said that to say this because you're going to run into people in your life that when you come up out of this hole, this perceived hole, they're going to be people like, you haven't changed. You're not worthy. I'm here to tell you today, this ministry is all about teaching us that we are worthy, that we're all whole and complete, and you don't have to measure up anything in mankind. You know why? Any things that are put up here that man wants you to measure up to? Well, yeah, we have to follow rules and regulations and follow the law. If not, it's chaos. That ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about measure up to what you already are. As y'all have heard me say many times, I search through drugs, alcohol, relationship, criminal behavior, dishonesty, stealing, everything. Okay. I mean, I can compare sins with the worst of you. I realized I was looking for something to make me feel whole and complete. And now that I'm a getting to be old gray haired fella, I realized I already had what I was looking for. I realized that the Jesus talker dude was living in me all along. I just wasn't listening. Think about that for yourself. Looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that is set before him endured the cross, despising shame, and sat down at the right hand of the Father. This is new to you. I know we're getting close to the end here. When Jesus Christ died, was resurrected, walked the earth, and ascended to the right hand of the Father, guess who was with him? Us. We were with him, and we're with him now. We are included in that. Oh, sorry, what am I doing here? What may happen here? Okay. Oh, there we go. As we leave here today and we think about reflection, think about times in your life when just think about it. Just use it. I mean, give God a few minutes of your life today to think about this. Let the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. In your sight, oh Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Think about words like that. Make them real to you in your life. Think about times when you know God has intervened in your life. Believe it or not, I don't know what attitude you have right now about being here or being at Fellowship House or any of that, or any of you online or the others, wherever you are in your life right now. You are exactly where you're supposed to be at this moment in your life. If you if it wasn't meant to be, you wouldn't be. Now it may not be what I want right now. It may be not going the way I think it should go, but you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Think about it. Think about it. As long as you're around somebody that's trying to lift you up and not throwing dirt on you, right? So, in closing today, especially because this is a men's rehab, but they can be a Jesus talker dude can also be a Jesus talker gal for the women, but he's there in you. You got to listen. He's going to tell you, going to guide you to make the right decisions. If you're pondering a decision right now, you don't know which way to go, let Jesus get involved in it. Let your Jesus talker do communicate to you and show you that you're included. God's not ticked off at you, and that he's for you no matter if you're in rehab or wherever you are. God is involved in the details of your life. Hopefully, we'll walk away from here today thinking about the miracles that God has performed in my life in your life. You're actually there. There's a miracle being performed in your life right now. Just be open to it.